Hi, I'm Trevor Conquergood. I'm the software manager for R&K Distributing, and I'm kind of excited because I think the kids will be going back to school this September, and of course they may need to wear face masks this year, and so I thought it would be a fun thing to show you guys how you can use our Floriani software and our Floriani embroidery projects to create a cool, customized mask or really anything you want to, because I'm going to make a little crest and then affix it to a mask that I've already got here. And so that's me wearing the mask now, and my son goes to Evan Hardy Collegiate here in Saskatoon, and their team name is the Souls, and so this is a little patch that I made for Nick. Anyways, what I'm going to do is pop over into our embroidery software where I have the finished patch that I've already made. And I thought I would just quickly show you guys how easy it is to make your own kind of like school patch or any logo really that you wanted to. The first thing I did really was I already had kind of like artwork for crests. So if I was to say open, and then just look on my desktop, I think I've got a folder for today. And so basically here's the crest artwork. And so what this is actually SVG artwork. It's not actually embroidery files. It's just opening up, but there's a bunch of crest shapes. And so what I did was kind of like went browsing for a crest shape, and obviously you could select any one of these little sort of shapes and then use it to build a little embroidery from. And so I think it was this one here that I selected, and so I just clicked on copy, and then I'll start up a new and empty workspace and then click on paste. And so basically we have our little crest on our screen. Why don't we turn an embroidery hoop on? And so depending on what hoop what machine you have, if you know what format that you're going to be needing, you tell the software what format, and that'll allow you to select from the different embroidery hoops that are available for that machine. And I'm going to just pick a little tiny hoop because I'm just going to make a little tiny crest. And it tells me right now that it's 12.3 millimeters tall. And if you're like, but I'm not from Canada, Trevor, I don't know millimeters, that's no big deal, because you can just right click on the ruler and change that over to inches. And so now you'll see that it's about 0.4 of an inch. And I could, I guess, use this little kind of corner handle to resize it, and notice the little tooltip at the bottom that tells me that, oh, now I'm 1 inch tall, basically. And I can also come over here to the properties area of the software and tell it in inches or in millimeters exactly what size I want it to be. So if you wanted to make your patch, to be 1.5 inches tall or 2 inches tall, just type in 2 and click apply. And so now my crest shape is kind of like preset. So now I need to fill it in with thread. And down at the bottom are the styles of embroidery, and I could basically just click on, fill it in, or click on outline it. Maybe you want it filled and outlined. I also have an undo option, right? So I can go back to the original artwork. If I want to have a fill and an outline, I'm basically going to need to have 2 copies of the same artwork, one for the fill and one for the outline. And so I'll just use copy and paste to get 2 copies of it and make the one that kind of comes on top be the outline, and then make the one on the bottom be the fill. Now, maybe if I change the color of the fill, it'll help you to see what I'm saying. I've made a border around a filled in area. Here, let's turn on our 3D view so you can see what the finished stitching's kind of looking like. And what I think I'll do is actually, notice in the crest that I made, I actually divided it so that there was like a top area and a bottom area. And so to do that, I'm going to kind of need to slice it up a little bit. And so maybe I'll just hit undo and go back to that sort of black piece of artwork that we had. Because remember, the crest itself, it's just basically a vector artwork that we're, filling in with thread, but we want to kind of change the shape of that. And one way I can do that is with our knife tool, and there's several different knife tools, but I'll just use a kind of a basic closed shape knife. And essentially what you do is click across your shape. And notice the little crosshair that I can use that kind of helps me to make a nice straight line there. Anyway, I right click to finish doing that. And notice here in my sequence view how I now have a piece for the top of the shield and a different piece for the bottom of the shield. And so I could take the top piece of the shield, color it in white, and fill it in, and then take the piece for the bottom of the shield, color it in blue, and fill that in. And then the Evan Hardy Souls is like a navy and gold. So I'm going to take the border and make that a gold color so that I'm building a crest that's kind of like their school colors right now. This is optional, but I decided that I also wanted to have a border that surrounded where the white and the blue kind of met up. And so since there wasn't really any artwork for that, I just clicked on the sort of pencil or the drawing tool, and I'll just use a basic line to draw. And so if I just click right here and click basically right there and then right click, I would have drawn a line. You'll see it down here in the sequence view. See right after that steel border, there's this piece of artwork that I drew, and I just need to also convert that to be a steel border. And so there we've got our little crest shape created, and it's ready to embroider. Although I will say, if you're an embroiderer, I probably would select the fill areas and just go in and apply a little bit of extra pull compensation. And so if you're not sure what I'm talking about, it's just one of those things that you learn about when you do embroidery. Anyway, it's something that I can easily adjust, right? Because any of the types of stitches and the settings that could be controlled on them are going to be in this properties box, and there's different tabs. So this is the tab for the fill, and you can choose from different patterns of fill. This is the tab for the underlay stitches, and I could choose to add a contour and have a perpendicular, so 2 layers of underlay. And essentially underlay are the stitches that are going to sew first. See that? The contour, the perpendicular, and then the fill is coming on top. And so underlay stitches are important because they help your crest basically not sink into the fabric and, look nice and clean. Anyhow, so now it's time to put some personalization onto our crest, and Nicholas's school name was the Souls. So I got my text tool, and there's several different text tools, but I'll just use the basic horizontal text tool, and I click to put down the words my text. Now it comes at a default size. It comes in whatever font I used last, and there are like hundreds of fonts to choose from here. But Centro is the one that I used to make the patch, and so basically I just typed out the name SOULS, Souls, and click apply, and so that'll update. Now it obviously doesn't fit right now, and so I'll just click on my select tool, and what I could maybe do is put the bottom corner onto the shape and then come to like the opposite corner and click and drag to resize that letters smaller. And when I made the letters kind of fit horizontally, they did seem a little bit smaller than they could. In other words, I could make those letters slightly taller to kind of fill up that space and then maybe just center them a little bit. The other thing you might want to do, and again, this is kind of like the pro tip, if I right click and go into embroidery, edit text, and I zoom in, I have little handles, and I could work on what's known kerning, the letter spacing, to kind of just make sure that I have, sometimes the little letter U and little letter L might kind of like blend together to be one kind of sort of continuous column right here, so a little bit of space. Sometimes the L and the S just seem slightly close, and you want to make a little extra space. See how I can do that? So that's called using the edit text mode to adjust your letter spacing, also known as kerning. Anyway, last thing was we need a little logo to put down in the bottom here. And so for that, what I actually did was I went and found an actual graphic. And so if I click on my backdrop tool, I had gone on the internet and looked up the Evan Hardy Souls, and then I made a little folder and I saved that artwork onto my computer. And see, here it is, the Evan Hardy Souls JPEG. That's what I found on the internet, and so I can open that up and see here's the artwork, and notice what it really is, a JPEG. JPEGs are not vector artwork. We don't have a shape that we can fill in like we did for the crest with this foot. All we have really is pixels of color, and so we need to essentially vectorize this shape. Somebody needs to digitize it, and that could be me. I could take the pencil and click, click, click and draw around these shapes, or I could use a wizard hat and have the software kind of like process it for me. This little magic wand tool is a fun tool because essentially it's like a tracing tool. So if I zoom in and if I click on the little yellow toe, it sees it, and just if I hide that artwork there for a second, my little hide artwork tool is just down here. And so basically, notice that it outlined that toe like that. And so, yeah, here, I can get that toolbar to fix up. I'm just going to reset my toolbars because they seem to be kind of mixed up a little bit. There's the tool. Oh, that's because my quilting tools are over on the left when I normally like them. So I just basically used a tool to resort out my toolbars because I think they were slightly, well, confused, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to use that magic wand tool and click, 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 click. And so now what we've done, if I hide that artwork again, is we vectorized the little logo for the Evan Hardy soles. And now that I've vectorized it, I can, for example, select all of those shapes and tell them to be filled in. I mean, this is a vector artwork. You could use this to send it to a digital cutting machine if you wanted to and save it as an SVG file. But to make it into embroidery, what you're going to want to do is choose one of the styles of embroidery at the bottom. And rather than a standard fill or a border, I'll use the auto satin option. And so if I basically just click on this toe and click on auto satin, you'll see what happens. It kind of fills it in. Now, I also noticed that when I use the satin, it's kind of like splitting it, but it's because the foot's so big, and I'm really going to make it tiny like that, aren't I? And so why don't I just select that whole foot and make it the actual size, because that way when I convert it into embroidery, we'll get results that kind of make sense to us. And so I'm just going to kind of zoom in here and make that foot be the approximate size that we're looking for. And so I'm just about there. Now you'll see what I'm saying. And so now it seems more appropriate to kind of put that little, basically I'm just going to tell it to auto satin, and it'll click and convert those into thread, you know, and essentially that's how easy it can be to convert a graphic into an embroidery design. And so, yeah, and then basically what I did with my embroidery design is, I think I've got the pictures here. Of course, I embroidered it, right? So I saved it to my embroidery format, took it to my machine, and stitched it out, and I sewed it onto, this is a special technique to make a patch now. It's only one way that I make crests or patches, but it's one of the easiest. This is no-show stabilizer, Floriani no-show nylon mesh. It's made from nylon, and it's a great product to sew and make patches with. You'll see how very translucent it is and how very light it is, so make sure you do a good job getting it really hooped up nice and tight. I usually use as small a hoop as possible for the size of the embroidery. And so that's why I've got it in a kind of smaller size hoop like this. Anyway, once I embroider on it, I'm going to basically burn it out. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But before I do, notice that I ironed on basically this white, what looks like a piece of paper, is actually an adhesive. It's called Press and Bond. And I used Press and Bond to iron onto the back of the patch. And then basically when I peel this waxy paper off, I will have adhered an adhesive. So this is going to mean that our little patch will be like an iron-on patch. I can iron it right onto my mask or onto the pocket of a backpack or your jeans, whatever you want. It's called Fusible, and it's Press and Bond is the name of that product, and it's a Floriani product as well. And so that picture's actually upside down. Haha, didn't notice that, but essentially this is the Heatcraft tool, also a Floriani product, and I'm just going to use it to go around my shape, and it'll literally cut that stabilizer away like a hot knife cuts out butter. And look, this one's upside down too. Oh, Trevor, you should have checked these things before you started recording. Well, anyway, sorry for the funny upside down photos, but can you see how I made a cute little patch and how my cute little patch still upside down? It has glue on the backside, and that's what you're looking at now, is the kind of like a little bit of adhesive that's captured the backside of my crest. And so essentially now I'm just going to use a hot iron and iron it right onto a mask. And yes, I made the mask too. And I'm sure you guys have all been making lots of masks this year because it's 2020, and and we're all home and sheltering and doing our best to stay self-isolated and wash your hands and wear a mask when you go to school or out in public. Anyway, you guys, that is a cute little video on how to make a patch for your friend or children or grandchildren when they're going back to school. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for listening, and bye for now.